Hello, everyone. I am thrilled to be here. I'm Madelyn Burke. Thank you to everyone for being here in attendance. We've got a fantastic panel. I know you guys all saw the incredible introduction. So with no further ado, let's get everyone out on the stage, starting with ESPN NFL insider Dan Graziano. ESPN NFL national reporter Kimberley Martin. ESPN senior NFL insider Adam Schefter. And two-time Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl MVP Eli Manning. Thrilled to be here with you guys today. First of all, Schefty, you got both phones charged right now?
Both phones charged, yeah. One of them is starting to run low, but they're charged for now, yes.
We're doing great. Appreciate you guys all taking the time out of your days to be here to speak about NFL and sports media and all of that. The landscape of sports media has changed so much over the years. Dan, I'll start with you on this one. How do you guys manage the influx of information with social media and everything being available?
Yeah, I think it's really about maintaining trusted sources, because there's so many sources of information out there that aren't trustworthy when you talk about social media and all that. So I think that's the trick. When you talk about what it's changed, I go back, I was a baseball writer for newspapers like in the late 1990s, early 2000s. Exactly. So it's changed a lot.
That's the stuff we use for paper mache, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think, bottom of like litter boxes and things like that. But no, it's changed a lot. But I think it becomes even more important to identify where the information is coming from, who the information is coming from, why they're giving it to you, and then, be able to disseminate it based on all of that. Because at this point, there's so much noise and so much flying around. It's just so important to make sure that everything is rooted in, reality and something trustworthy.
Right. Kimberly, you started your career as a writer as well.
Yeah, I made fun of Dan, but yeah, I started as a newspaper writer too. So I think the three of us kind of started similarly with those newspaper roots. And I think the importance of relationships, I think that's been the thing that I always go back to when I talk to young journalists or students. I always say relationships are key. It takes forever to build a connection with an athlete, but it can take 5 seconds to ruin that relationship. So in the age of social media and, we had blogs, and then we have now social media and tweets and bots and all these things. At the core of what we do, journalism, it is about who knows you and knows that they can trust you with whatever information they have to share.
Right, and speaking of information, a point Graz made too is you gotta curate not just what the information is, who's telling you it, and why. And Schefty, you, I'm sure, get an influx of information on a daily basis. How do you navigate what is appropriate to put out there, what is ready to be broken, and how to break it?
To answer that and to refer to what we're talking about here, I just think the job has changed so much. And I like to tell people that I got my undergraduate degree from Michigan, I got my graduate degree from Northwestern, and I got my master's from the Denver Broncos, because I spent 16 years around them learning how to deal with people, learning what you could and couldn't do, learning what worked and what didn't work. And I'm grateful for my time there. Now, from the time that I covered that team to now, the job that we do today, I was thinking about it this morning. It has become so relentless because of the interest in the NFL, because of the interest in fantasy sports, because of the interest in gambling, and because of social media and the instant world that we live in. It used to be there were moments where you could come up and take a breath. It is really incredible. I feel like that is no longer the case. Last week was the trade deadline on Tuesday. That had to be the single craziest final deadline day on Tuesday. And I thought, okay, well, now maybe you catch your breath. I don't remember what Wednesday was, but Wednesday was something. Wednesday was something.
It's a blur.
Thursday, we had the tragedy involving the Dallas Cowboys' young defensive end Marshawn Nealon, who took his own life. Friday was something. Saturday, I was emceeing a diabetes fundraising walk in Philadelphia. Donald Trump wants to name the Commander Stadium after him. We had another story that day that was coming out. Sunday's game day. Monday, Brian Daboll's fired. Yesterday, I was
today. What's the breaking news? Yeah.
Well, today,
This morning, we saw you getting on Twitter with the
Today,
the
Eli
latest.
Manning announced he's coming back to play quarterback this weekend.
Third string.
Third string, but only as Chad Powers.
He's foregoing the rights to his media company to the three of us up here, and he's going to play quarterback instead. We're proud to take over Omaha, and we look forward to the Graziano cast on Monday night.
10 till is
Flag
going to be run
football.
by these three over here.
Flag football.
I mean, listen, you see guys like Joe Flacco, Aaron Rodgers still out there. Does that make you want to get up, at least in your Chad Powers best?
I can't even get up. That's the problem. So, no, I'm too.
Leave
I'm
get
too
up
old.
to us,
Yeah,
okay?
exactly. No, I'm no too old. Those guys are playing well. No, it's fun to watch Flacco and Aaron. 2 plus 40-year-olds playing a few weeks ago in a game, but it's hey, it's fun to walk around the streets and hear the fans say, "Oh, well, we need you back," and I give the high five and I feel good about myself. But zero thoughts of coming back.
And
So much for that story.
Well, you heard it here first. We alluded to Chad Powers, though. I mean, that started as a sketch with you and now has become a full-on show as an executive producer of the show. I mean, what's that process been like?
It's been amazing. I mean, it was 3 years ago that Glenn Powell sent me, called me, and Michael Waldron called and said, "Hey, we want to turn Chad Powers into a show and make it like a real thing." I was like, "All right, I'm ready for Hollywood. I'm ready to be an actor, ready to do this." And they're like, No, you're not going to be in it. We don't. You acting? No way. I'm like, oh, okay.
Have they not seen the Eli Manning show?
Exactly. So, but it's just been amazing. I mean, the idea that started around, wanting to do doing a show for ESPN called Places, and wanted to do a show on the history of walk-ons in college football, and so called Coach Franklin and asked if I could. Do a tryout. Penn State does an open tryout, one of the only teams that still does an open tryout to walk on the team. And there I did. I showed up. Every kid's, 18, 19 years old, and this 41-year-old guy, the dad bod, shows up and goes through it. And I remember the funny part, I really kept a low profile for a while because I knew I looked different, and I didn't want to, cause any more scene than all of a sudden, this guy with a mullet and a mustache walking in. And when I started throwing a little bit, the quarterback coach, who had no idea, none of the coaches had any idea, it was really almost like a prank. Coach Franklin was pranking his coaches to see if they could recognize if someone did have some talent, would they see it? And I started throwing, and the quarterback coach started asking a lot of questions. And that's when I started making up that I was homeschooled. My mom was my football coach and my teacher. Really good coach, terrible teacher. And
improv skills are strong.
There you
with
go.
This one.
And, think fast, run fast. And then by the end of it, I mean, there was one other quarterback there, sweet kid, not a very good quarterback. And all we're doing throwing routes, versus defensive back. So all the receivers are coming up. Hey, Chad, I'm running a post. Hey, Chad, I'm running a comeback. The other kid was getting no reps. They were not coming to him at all. But then I felt responsible to try to help them make the team. It's like these guys a lifelong dream to being walking on at Penn State and getting running out in the crowd. And so I was all in. And but I didn't complete enough passes to make the team that day. So
Unfortunate. You still have eligibility?
I think I have a COVID year of eligibility. I tried to do that a few years ago at Ole Miss, but they said it wouldn't work.
So no. All right. Well, your acting career did not take off, but production has. 10 Till's doing a lot of great stuff, including the Manning cast. We see a lot of players now transitioning from on the field to in the media. As people covering the sport, Kimberley, you've got a lot of great relationships with the players around the league. Is there a player that has surprised you with their post-career media come up?
What's funny? I was a Cub backup beat writer when Damian Woody was on the Jets. Bart Scott, who I remembered covering on the Jets, who had a media mutiny and was like, I don't want to talk to any of you. Kmart, you're cool, but the rest of you I don't want to talk to. And I was like, isn't it funny? Yeah. You want to be in media now after all those years. A lot of, our boss is a Jets fan, so it makes sense that a lot of them were working with us. But I guess I'm surprised at the amount of guys. It's not one guy in particular. Like Jeff Saturday, I'm sitting there and I'm watching and I'm like, he's so good. And yet we show footage of him with the Colts and you're just like, chubby little Jeff. He was the man on the field. And I'm just shocked that so many guys want to do media because it did feel in a locker room like, hey, Eli, do you have a second? Sorry to bother you. I know Friday's not your normal day, but could you take pity on me and answer my question? And now you guys are just owning it. It's making it tougher. There are less spots for actual reporters, but it's cool to see because the perspective is different. They have in the trenches, hey, when a coach gets fired, when a quarterback retires, like those guys can speak from the actual experience in those locker rooms. Whereas the rest of us kind of use those relationships and the experiences that we have covering them to bring a different perspective, and the relationships we have kind of also add context too. So it's been great. I think it's a symbiotic relationship that's kind of cool.
And so many players now have their own podcasts and have their own voices even during their playing careers, which, that poses a new challenge, Graz, when you are reporting on a team to kind of not just kind of go along with that, but almost compete with it.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like I have SportsCenter tonight, 5 o'clock SportsCenter, and the producers are texting me, are you following this A.J. Brown Twitch stream?
6 o'clock SportsCenter just texted me
Yeah.
on that, and I said,
What is
boring.
this? What is this?
So-
I don't know about this.
I
did
guess
it Twitch.
AJ
Say
is
more.
expressing, he's airing
Yeah.
some grievances.
Oh yeah,
apparently on,
I could have
on
told you that was
Twitch.
going to happen after last week's game.
So,
But now it's a different platform. It's Twitch. It's
not even
Instagram.
Festivus.
It's not
Right.
Twitter. It's not an interview in the locker room.
so just having to be aware that such things exist is first, and then also like what the content is, what's out there to respond. Because now, like, there was a time when you could say, well, that's nothing, that's not going to get any attention. But now there's no such thing. Anything can get all the attention. Anything can blow up that anybody says anywhere. Adam could say something here right now that could become big news, right? And so I think that's what's different is the number of different places you have to sort of pay attention to because of that. Like this guy said something on this podcast, or he said something in an interview on someone else's podcast that maybe you never heard of. But now what a break for them, right? So I think that's the key is to sort of being aware that it could come from anywhere at this point. And in terms of the players having their own platforms during their playing career, I mean that can be a number of different things. They could be testing it out for after, right? Or they could be just using it in a way to air their grievances. So I think that's interesting too to follow and because I think when you cover guys, you can kind of tell. I remember those Jets teams, and I was transitioning from baseball to football, and guys like Damian Woody and Bart Scott were very helpful.
Yes.
I mean, they liked to talk. I'm not surprised they're in media. Based on Marcus Spears was a guy in the Dallas Cowboys locker room that was great to talk to and was could explain the game to somebody who was new to covering it. So I'm always interested to see sort of, that guy looks like he might have a future in this.
And as you mentioned too, there's so many different avenues and so many different places that you got to be aware of the information coming in. Schefter, you were just going through every single day for the last how long has been busy. What happens if you're on an airplane with no Wi-Fi?
Oh, that.
We were just in the basement with no Wi-Fi, and you were
It was-
freaking out.
It was
For
tense
about
down
12
there, guys.
minutes. It was getting stressful.
Now you've got
I will say
Adam
this.
upset.
Here's the great part about it is that, and this has entered into it, I don't go to any more games. The only game I'll go to this year will be the Super Bowl because I had the all-time worst travel luck always. If I was on a plane, the Wi-Fi would not work. If I was in a plane, the TV in front of you would be out. It was almost guaranteed. Some of our bosses avoided being on flights with me because I had the single worst travel luck. And people, we talk about Randy Moss, former players, to combine it all together, one of my favorite stories ever. We were having a Monday night wildcard game on ESPN, ABC, Rams, Cardinals in L.A. And they make the playoff assignments about a week in advance. And I remember the assignments coming out, and I'm like, okay, we've got to be in L.A. And on Sunday afternoon, the 49ers and Cowboys play in Dallas. So this is going to be great. I'm going to fly to L.A. In that window, I'm going to book JetBlue, and we're going to go JetBlue and fly out and watch the entire 49ers Cowboys game. JetBlue.
What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? We get on the plane, and I'm sitting next to Randy Moss, and we go to put on all the channels. We're going through. Get to channel 2. Green screen. Out. Now, fortunately that day, that also happened to be the Slime Time Nickelodeon playoff game. So we flick over to Nickelodeon. I will say this, my daughter works on Nickelodeon. She's been an insider there for the last 5 years, so I want to support Nickelodeon. We put it on, and all I could say is I'm watching this game. Nick Bosa goes down. He gets a hard hit on the head. I know he's got to be concussed. No mention of him. We're talking about superpowers and transporting it to outer space. And Randy is mesmerized by the whole screen. I'm trying to get information. I'm frustrated out of my mind, but at least we got to watch it, even though there's slime coming down as they're going into the end zone.
Everyone's a
the
cartoon
game ended,
character.
and Randy's like, "That is the coolest game I've ever seen."
So you always find a way, right?
Oh, I just don't fly.
Yeah, just
That-
don't
That's
fly.
how I find my way. I don't
There
go
we go.
anymore.
There we
I
go.
avoid it
Don't
at
fly.
all costs.
Phone on loud whenever you sleep.
I
Always
can't
got
tell you how many times I've been on a plane, like waiting to report something. Or is the text is the tweet going through? I mean, there's so many. I remember being in John F. Kennedy Airport, 6 a.m. I get a call that Jeff Saturday is taking over as the Colts interim coach. I call over Booger
that was a great
McFarland.
day.
I call over Booger McFarland. We're flying to New Orleans. You remember all the details. I go, Booger, I just got a call that Jeff Saturday. Who did he take over for? Frank Reich?
Frank Reich.
And Frank Reich and Jeff. He's like, what? Is Jim Irsay drunk? I'm like, no. I think this is happening. And I was going back. It was 6 a.m. We had to board the plane and got on the plane thinking and knowing it was true and waiting to fall on the plane. Like, I don't like to travel.
Like to be home, feet on the ground, Wi-Fi thriving. That's how we got to be.
As we check our phone right now.
Yeah. Stay ready. Eli, as a former player in media now, you have really leaned into your voice. I love the fact that you've let the world see your personality. When you were playing, you kept it kind of close to the vest, and now you kind of let the world see what a fun and charismatic person you are. How did you decide it was time to make that change? How did you decide that it was okay to just be you publicly?
Yeah, I think when I was playing, I was always worried that if I said something sarcastically, or if I was goofing off or said something funny, that someone could say, oh, he's not focused, or he's not serious, or he's not taking this job serious enough. And I never wanted that to ever come across. I mean, and I knew, especially in New York, you kind of get one opportunity to make an impression, and whatever that impression is, it can stay with you a long time. And I think my players and my teammates kind of knew my personality, but I was
They were definitely victims of several of your practical jokes.
Yes, exactly. So that was kind of a way to around the locker room, it's one thing, but it's just always very conscious of that. And I think when I retired, I just didn't have to worry about that anymore. It wasn't a concern. I didn't have to worry about someone saying, well, he's not serious, or he's not taking his job serious enough, and so I think that was the main thing. I remember after we won our first, even after we won our first Super Bowl, still wasn't comfortable enough to kind of put myself out there too much. I know they had asked me to host Saturday Night Live that year, and I said, no, it's too early. I can't do that. I still got more to prove, and I got to do more before I could ever do that. We won the second one. They finally convinced me, and I did host it at that point. I'm like, all right, 2 Super Bowls for the city. I think I can handle a day in May to go on Saturday Night Live. That this will be all right. But I think. But it's been fun. I was just having that platform. I really didn't have a game plan when I retired from football. There was no, hey, I'm definitely getting into media. It was probably the opposite. I said, I know I don't want to get into broadcasting. I don't want to travel. I don't want to, be gone every weekend and miss, my kids' games and doing that. And then Peyton called me one day and said, I got an idea where we're going to sit on our couches, watch football, and make fun of each other. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to do that anyway. No, as a job. Like, they'll pay you to do it on TV. I'm like, I thought he was pranking me. I thought it was a joke. I'm like, yeah, right. That'll never happen. What do you mean? And so luckily, with my Ole Miss education, I decided to do it. I said, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go with this. And so it makes
wild too. Manningcast has become a noun. People are like, oh, we're going to do a Manningcast of this game without, with different people.
I know. Well, it's been a lot of fun, and it keeps me involved in the game. I still get to watch film, which I love that part of playing quarterback and playing football, is the preparation and watching something and kind of getting to, when you're playing the game, it helps you make a check or, make a call or put in a special play. When you're announcing, it's like trying to teach the fans something unique about this style or what they, the other team should do in this situation. How should they handle their timeouts? When should they go for it in these things? What's going through the mind of the quarterback or the offensive coordinators. They're going through this situation. So it's fun to discuss those things, and just to see Peyton sweat every time a coach doesn't call a timeout at the right time, and just the all those things. So we I get to talk to my brother every week, probably more than we've ever talked before, and get to kind of show the personality, which is fun as well.
That's great. And you guys put a great product out there on Monday nights. Obviously, we got a lot of storylines to get into on the season as well, starting with the New York Football Giants. We alluded to it earlier. Big week.
One clap.
Yeah, one clap. But we appreciate it. We appreciate it.
One less than the number of wins they have.
It hasn't gone great
Ooh,
lately.
Schefter from the top rope. Listen, it's been a tough week for the 2-8 Giants. Brian Daboll is no longer the head coach. Jameis Winston's going to be starting at quarterback on Sunday when they take on the Packers. Being in the building, how would you describe, just kind of the nature of that and how that feels, and the decision process for an organization?
Well, I've avoided the building the last few weeks.
That's true.
But as I said this the other night, Monday night, that football, it's the greatest game. It's an awesome game. It's a brutal business, and I've seen it firsthand from coaches, from Tom Coughlin getting fired to other coaches being fired, for some of my best friends and great teammates not being signed back with the team or traded away. And those, you have great relationships. You have people that you admire and you respect so much, and sometimes they get let go or it doesn't work out. And have so much respect for Coach Daboll. Known him these last 4 years. We have a great relationship and friendship. I love talking ball with him. He's always, anytime we've had a Monday night game or needed some info, he's always called and given me some inside stuff, and think he's a great coach. He's had success. He's been a part of 5 Super Bowls. He was Coach of the Year 3 years ago as the head coach, and so I know he'll bounce back and be back in the NFL and be a coordinator or be another head coach somewhere else. And I think this is I think I kind of relate. Almost kind of first-time head coaches, especially in New York. It's like a first-time quarterback in New York. It's tough. You're dealing for the first time, dealing with the media. You're dealing with all new things, and it can take some time to kind of figure those things out and go through it. And you all of a sudden you have injuries, you have a new quarterback, you have all these things going on. So. Feel for Coach Daboll as a person, but I think he'll be fine, and obviously feel for the fans. I'm a fan. I go every week and watch the Giants, and to watch them lose games after having leads. Watching the Broncos game the other week was, and just knowing my brother was going to rub it in the next night. It's one of the toughest things that you can watch, because I know these guys. I root for them. I know how hard it is in New York, and to win and to. And so you pull for them, and you want them to get back on track.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough city to be a part of, in the media, on the field, and it is such a personality or a relationship business, right? When you talk about covering these people, they are people that you get to know and get to be endeared by. And Graz, when you cover a story like this, you've covered New York sports for quite some time as well.
A lot of hirings, a lot of firings.
There's a personal element to it.
No doubt. I
Yeah.
mean, I've texted Brian on Monday to tell him I was sorry to hear the news. You have to, that. I think that's important, because you don't want to be in a situation where people think you're just trying to get information from them. I mean, you want to make sure the relationship is real. And I had spoken to him the day before. I was in Chicago at the game, and I like him as well. I think he's good at what he does. It didn't work out, But yeah, there's no question about it, and you have to be sensitive to it. I don't like. You hear somebody gets fired. Bengals fired the defensive coordinator last year. Remember, you texted me and we let's see if we can find this out or nail this down together. I texted Lou Anarumo. It's a tough text to send, and that's usually how I start it. Hey, I hate sending a text like this, but we heard that this, and we want to make sure we're right before we go out with it. So. Yeah, I think that is important. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe being relentless and robotic about texting over and over and over. Maybe that works out better, but that's not how I'm wired.
So here's what's interesting, because I think as reporters, as insiders, you have to make a choice of who you want to be in this role. And I think what has served me well is you are covering people. And I think it goes back to the relationships. You can be the relentless, hey, blow somebody's phone up. But the coaches, the players, the GMs, the owners, I always get the text from them that's like, can you believe so-and-so? Like, I always get that, those kind of texts where they complain about how they understand how we want information, but it's the lack of, I don't know, just a
Empathy?
human element to it that you could, we're all in the information business, but I think there's a way you can do it. I was a Jets beat writer for a lot of years. So between Rex, like my first year on the beat, Mike Tannenbaum, the GM, who's our colleague at ESPN, got fired. And like he walks in the room to say goodbye and say thank you. And he's like tears in his eyes. And you're like, this is it's awful. Dabo, like all of these Todd Bowles, like, again, I was around the Jets for a long time, so I've seen a lot of GMs and a lot of head coaches cycle through. But I just think I don't think enough reporters in, whether it be baseball, whether it be football, whether it be whatever, remember at the core of everything that you are dealing with people. And I think if you interact with them in that way, I think they recognize that, they see that you're genuine, and I think it does pay off. So you may not be the person that's rattling off 15 texts in a row, but Lou Anarumo, I'm sure, responded to you because of the type of person you are.
I think that's the thing, and I think there's a difference between like, I got to get the news break, but also like at some point, I'm going to need something deeper from these people, right? Like if I'm out covering a game, I want to be able to text and call the coaches on the team and get helpful background information. And so sometimes the preservation of that relationship, it in the back of your mind, you think to yourself, like, this is the right way to make sure I don't blow this up for the future. I think that's a balance you have to strike, no?
They're professional relationships, and it's like anything else. You would hate to reach out to somebody out of the blue and be like, "Oh, Kimberley, I know we haven't spoken in a year, but
did you get fired
yeah,
today?"
did you get fired? Like, it's a little weird. Like I remember,
That's what
but I remember one time, like specifically, and it's weird in my mind. I'm always thinking, I got to check in with this team and my guy on this team, and some of these people I have such strong relationships with. I'm just speaking to them on a regular basis, but that's not every team. Sure, so I remember it was 4 or 5 years ago. I remember saying to myself, I haven't had any contact with the Vikings this summer. You know what? I got to get in touch with somebody from Minnesota just to check in, just in my own mind. And I had a couple people there that I like. Let me call them. And I was going to a doctor's appointment that afternoon. And as I'm walking in, I get an alert that Teddy Bridgewater has gone down. And I'm like, damn it. Like, I felt bad for Teddy. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, now I'm stuck because I can't call anybody. And I wasn't going to. Now, I was able to get the information in other ways, but it did not come from the people that I intended to call because I felt bad calling them when I hadn't spoken to them in a longer period of time than I was used to not speaking to them.
Kimberley, you talked a little bit about, it takes a long time to build these relationships with the players, with the coaches. It's not, just because you're in the locker room 1 year. I mean, for me in New York, I never gave my cell phone to anybody. No reporters, no one ever had it, and I just didn't want that access to be able to call me or I'd have to answer something. And the first person I ever gave my cell phone to was the late Chris Mortensen, and Mort was the best. And so, but it took him coming to our high school football camp like 3 years in a row and spending 3 days in Thibodaux, Louisiana. And I think I had a beer with Chris Mortensen. I'm like, all right, I can trust this guy now. And so that's honestly what it took. And you kind of talk about, building those relationships. It's a trust, and it's, especially with the players, with the coaches, that, hey, it's one thing, give them you're looking for that information, you're looking for something, but there's got to be a friendship and there's got to be a true trust there.
Right, because it is, at its core, sometimes a transactional relationship, right? I need information, you need whatever, and it can be beneficial for both sides. But as you mentioned too, nobody wants to feel like they're being used for the information. Nobody wants to feel like, oh wow, haven't heard from you and you want something. That never feels good from anyone. And, breaking a story has got to be an interesting process. Is there, Schefter, I'll start with you on this. Is there a story that you've broken that perhaps, you had to think about a little bit before you sent it out, or that you still think about today?
Every story like that all the time. I mean, I remember one time, just comes to mind, first of all, like coaches can remember plays and players can remember plays. Reporters can remember stories and everything that's involved. I remember one time, it was a big question about whether Jim Harbaugh would leave Stanford and go to the 49ers or the NFL. And I remember reporting it and following it to the desk. And I remember one of our college reporters reached out, hey, good job on Jim Harbaugh. It was really good to nail that down. I'm like, hold on, it's not nailed down. Like I reported, but until that guy who's unpredictable is up at the podium, you always are holding your breath. You never know. And so you do the best job you can. Like when I went to graduate school, they always said, if your mother tells you she loves you, check it out. And I tell everybody all these years later, I've confirmed that Jim Harbaugh took the 49ers job. I still haven't confired my mother loves me. We're trying
Working
to get
on
that
that
done.
one.
Another source.
What's the tweet you sent about me that was like a play on words or something a few years ago?
Yeah. When I was we did something together on a Thursday night recently, and so I'm guessing one of your producers. I didn't remember it. Yeah. Like it was sent to me. Hey, this may come up, and as I said to you that night, I would never do that in this day and age because I've learned on Twitter, all I tweet now is black and white. I never tweet jokes or opinions or anything because to me, it only leads to dangerous areas. So there was a time where the Giants traded Eli Apple, and I tweet out, the Giants finally have traded Eli. And so I thought
not
at that time
wrong.
that's funny, but it's not. You come
Did
to
you
learn.
see that tweet and think, what happened? Is this how I find
That
out?
was pre-Twitter for me. That was.
Thinking about breaking news, it made me think of like when you have the news, like pressing send, like there's nothing for
my
me. It's anxiety inducing only because, again, I came up in newspapers, so it's sort of for me the number one tenet is be accurate. I think
Because balancing being fast and being right.
like the way the game has changed, it's like everything is about the immediacy of things and wanting to have it before whatever, whoever else or whatever. But to me, I rather, I hope my boss doesn't see this, but I'd rather be late on something, but be accurate, because the worst thing is seeing somebody put something out and then having to kind of couch it later in a subsequent tweet, or that information is not quite right. As a reporter, your job is to disseminate information and to be factually accurate. There's nothing worse than getting something wrong.
There was a time, and it's a story I tell. I was at my mother-in-law's 75th birthday party.
A lot of mother-in-law stories here.
Yeah.
Did you confirm it was her 75th birthday?
My mother-in-law. Anyway, she just walked into the room. I get a text from somebody, and they said, hey, had some information for you. I said, I just sat down at my mother-in-law's party. He said, call me back. Okay, so I walk out of the room, and the person says, Andrew Luck's retiring tomorrow.
Yeah, that was a big one.
So I call around to a bunch of people, and nobody is saying anything. Yeah. And it's going on and on. And I call back the person who sent the text, and I'm going over, and the person knew so many details. So I went ahead, and I don't think I would do this today. I don't think I would do it today. Andrew Luck is retiring. And within 90 seconds, my phone rang. And it was Matthew Hasselbeck, who was Andrew Luck's backup in Indianapolis. And he said, did you just report that Andrew Luck's retiring? And I said, yeah. He goes, are you sure? And I said, yeah. Why? He said, I was just with him at his house the last few days, and he never mentioned it to me.
So that's a little stressful.
Oh, my God.
So
I would rather be beat on every story than have that feeling again.
100%. I think what's amazing is like the gap between 99% sure and 100 is so much larger than 98 to 99. Like you have to get to 100 or else you can't go with
And
it.
I think I was at 99 there.
Right. And that's stressful. So
Well, and,
I'm
and
getting
in those 99 moments too, do you worry if nobody else is corroborating? Do you worry there's a reason, or maybe that person, it's important to that person?
I
to be
do.
able
I
to
don't think
say it?
Adam does, but I sometimes yeah. I think no, I was a compliment.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. What I'm saying is I remember.
He's having flashbacks
no,
right now.
yeah. That
Yeah.
story, like, boom. Again, remembering all the stories. Within a few minutes, other people had all of a sudden, everybody's.
Sometimes you're a little suspicious on, are they really confirming, or are they? I got a good one.
Right.
I was getting my hair cut, and I got a call that I was expecting for a
Looks
while.
great.
Yeah, and this is you're gonna like this story, I promise. And the conversation was, and it got to a point where this person said to me, "And yeah, I'm heading to New York on Thursday for Eli's thing." And I was like, "What is Eli's thing? Is Eli retiring?" Yeah, let's poke around on this. I called Jordan Ronan, who covered the Giants for us. I was like, hey, I think Eli might be having a retirement press conference later this week. And we got pretty close, but no one really wanted to say it. And it was actually Mort that got it over. He may have actually called you.
With his cell phone.
Mort called me.
Mort
Was the one. There was a lot of rumblings. I heard some rumblings. I finally confirmed it.
Mort got us from 99 to 100 on that story.
As a general rule, if a Manning's going to retire, Mort's going to report.
That's why we called him.
But that whole, follow that thread though. Because Eli's talking about how, as a player, I didn't want to give anybody my cell phone number. But after spending time with Mort, he felt like, okay, this guy I can trust. However many years ago. Fast forward to sometimes relationships, you just never know how things circle back. But it's laying the groundwork in sort of those building blocks of trying to develop trust and let somebody know, hey.
But it's not even trying and building. It just happens.
Yeah.
It just
it's
evolves
just organic,
over time. A relationship forms. Like you're saying that with Mort. Like I was in Denver for 16 years. I looked at John Elway like, oh my God, and he never gave his number to anybody. And now we have a relationship where when he was the GM, he's calling me all the time, and professionally very friendly. So it evolves over time. It's not even trying. It just happens.
That's a good distinction because I think it has to be organic. The people that I'm tight
and
with
authentic.
and cool with,
yeah,
I will leave ESPN, leave journalism, and I will still have those same relationships because they're rooted in like a genuine connection and trust.
As a player, how did you make the decision to say, okay, yes, even though this is the person that you've chosen to trust enough with your cell phone number, that you're willing to let somebody else tell your story in that moment? Let Mort break the news of the fact that you're retiring.
But yeah, I mean, I think he just. I remember I was going out to dinner with some friends in the city, and I called Pat Hamlin, who was our PR guy at the Giants, and told him, hey, I want to do a press conference. This might have been Monday. I want to do a press conference Thursday and announce a retirement. And I think it was maybe kind of Monday night or Tuesday night out going to dinner in the city and. Kind of saw some rumblings of it or heard stuff, and then finally Mort called me or sent me a text. Any truth to this? And I said, well, might as well just come out with it now. So just say, yeah, I'm done. And I think it's just I guess I probably knew if I was going to break the news to somebody, I was going to be to him, just because we had a great friendship and a great relationship, and he was the inside guy. He was the guy who had the insider information and was good at it. And so, yeah, I mean, I think even to this day, I'm still pretty hesitant about reporters or media just having all your cell phone, just because of the fact it still takes time and trust. And if there's breaking news with the Giants, like I don't want to be the first one to have to give a comment on it or talk about it all the time or be responsible. Always kind of anyone can reach you at any point to get a quote. There's sometimes where, hey, I don't want to say anything. I want to be quiet and respect everybody that's going through this tough situation.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Now, as we're wrapping up the panel here, we've got time for a couple member questions from the Paley members. Starting with Eli, if there was one play in your career that you could do over, which one would it be?
It'd probably be those 4 interceptions I threw against Minnesota, 3 of which were returned for touchdowns. So I can't decide which of the 3 I want to take back. It's tough, but that was I thought we had Minnesota on a Monday night game a few weeks ago. It was funny kind of having a conversation with Peyton and some of the producers. I said, I had a couple tough games. I threw 4 I'm kind of talking about a specific one. I threw 4 interceptions against Minnesota, and before I could finish, Peyton's like, I remember that. I was at that game. I'm like, no, that was another game versus Minnesota. I threw 4 interceptions. So what I was going to talk about is this one, and I think I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm the only quarterback in history that threw 3 interceptions in a game, and then later on that season went and won a Super Bowl. And they're like, probably so. And then the next day got news back, said, actually, you're not. Joe Namath also did 3 and won a Super Bowl. So it's a New York thing.
It's a New York thing. It's solid company right here. The next member question we have is to everyone. What do you think is different about the rookies coming into the NFL now versus when Eli was a rookie? Graz, Kimberly?
This generation's just different. I think they kind of see life after football already. They're thinking about their other interests, which is not a bad thing. I just think 6'7", like these kids are just, I mean, Like it's just a different I don't know, they're just like they're thinking about life beyond just the white lines. Like, not to say that they're not focused on it, but the amount of podcasts that they have, they're thinking about, I want to be an actor, I have other interests, and I think it's kind of cool. Like, I think it's kind of cool.
They've grown up in a world where attention means it's something different than it did, 20, 30 years ago. So they're used to the idea of, like, every thought I have needs to be shared with the world, no matter who I am. So I think that I was different. I mean, look, I'm at a point where the players coming into this league are pretty close to my kids' ages, right? So like I guess I feel like I know a little bit about them from having raised kids that are their age. I also tell people when you start to feel really old is when you realize you're older than the coaches, that not just the players. But anyway, no, the kids that are coming into the league now, I think it's on the flip side of that is like they're kind of more maybe media savvy because they've probably talked into a microphone a little bit more than right. Yeah.
They're recording everything that they do, their friends do. They're used to the camera.
I also think they're wired to think that they don't need us, right? Like I can get my message out in other ways that are just as effective, if not more so, than giving an interview to ESPN. So I think in that respect, you sometimes have to sell the benefit of that. Here's who's going to see it. Here's where it's going to go, and here's how it could benefit you. So I think that's a big part of it too.
Yeah. Schefter, thoughts?
It's a different generation. These kids are paid. They're young
The NIL
professionals now,
too, yeah.
right? Like they come in. I mean, your nephew, right? Like it's a totally different world. I don't think maybe you got paid to go to Ole Miss. I don't know.
No, I did not.
Not officially.
That was a quick no.
They're not even impressed by facilities. A lot of them this is cool. Yeah, my college locker room was better than this. So it's just different.
And so much information available too on the internet too. You see everything that everyone thinks about you, says about you, all that as well.
Yeah, I think the thing that got me was I remember kind of towards the end of my career when I was playing and a couple like a player getting mad that a coach was like getting on him and coaching him up and like kind of saying, hey, you gotta get better at this and we gotta work on this, and the guy was like, man, I was a 5-star in high school. I'm like, all right, that's we can't talk. We're not talking about your high school stats.
We're not
or what
doing rivals
star.
ratings right now.
We didn't have stars when I was coming around, so we don't have to worry about how many stars you have. It's about getting better. It's about producing. It's about getting coached. Like you should want to get coached every year. I used to tell our quarterback coach that every single year, and he had new ones. At some point, I was older than the quarterback coach, but that was what I used to say. Be hard on me, coach me up. Don't let me get bad fundamentals or bad habits. We're gonna watch the film, just you and I, after every practice of every play to make sure we're on the same page and we're doing these things. So and I think it kind of gets back to that. The other interests when we came in, if you had other interests, you didn't talk about it. You never talked about your other interests. It was like you wanted anyone and everyone to think you were football 100%.
Don't you dare
you
read a
hated
book.
your family. You didn't like your kids. You didn't do anything. It's all football. But that's that has changed.
Sometimes the University of Michigan asked me to talk to recruits that they're having. So at one point, a couple of years ago, there was this kid. He said, no one ever asked me this. If I decide to come to Michigan, he was a 5-star recruit, would you tweet the news? I'm like, well, I've never really tweeted news about a high school player announcing his college, but if that meant something to you, sure, I'll do it. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, my phone rings from an agent that I rarely hear from. And I'm like, I wonder why this guy's calling. So I picked up the phone, and kind of a big-time agent, and I said, what's going on? He goes, I just want to make sure following up, you're going to tweet for that guy if he goes to Michigan. I go, how do you know about that? He goes, well, I'm working with him. I represent him. Kid's in a junior in high school, this big-time NFL agent. I'm like, what the hell? Like, this is a different world.
It's a different world indeed. But hey, a Schefter tweet holds value, as we have learned. We could talk football all afternoon, but unfortunately, this is all the time we have today. So I want to thank you all for being here for this panel. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. For Dan Graziano, Kimberly Martin, Adam Schefter, and Eli Manning, I'm Madelyn Burke. It's been a pleasure.